not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.
Hey everyone, I'm Jason and this is Rob. And
Ew.
You are watching the Making Star Wars show, which is my radio voice, which I hate. Why did I say it like that? Self-loathing. Let's do it. Yeah, so how you doing, man?
Good. I am good. Actually, I got a red arm.
Got a red arm? Yeah. Yeah, now we know. I got to put my pretentious sunglasses on because my head is starting to hurt already. That said, yeah, so we've had a pretty good little run here of Indiana Jones stuff, and a lot of stuff is coming out of the Glasgow set, which has been set up to look like New York in 1969. And one of the site, there's like an Indy 5 News Twitter that's current in Club Obi-Wan, and which Club Obi-Wan, if you don't know, is the name of the nightclub from Temple of Doom, which Star Wars fans probably know that, but you never know. So some people are new. So we have a bunch of photos from that that I'm going to attempt to screen share today, which who knows? You know what? I might just end up showing something completely wrong that I'm not supposed to show. That happens.
You're sapping debt. You know,
yeah.
SabbathKings.com, right? Like,
no, I'm thinking those ones right there are the pictures you sent me that I think you're going to be able to pull up. But let me see if I can do this correctly or not. Yeah, so I just did like a screen share. So right here, this is one of the things that we were talking about a few days ago, and that is the Welcome Home Apollo 11 astronauts. And so I'm not sure what to think about this because, you know, there were leaks that hit saying that it involved the space race. And I don't understand still how we're going to connect the space race to the MacGuffin. And if you're not aware of like what a MacGuffin is, because you're like newer to that kind of stuff, the MacGuffin is like what they're chasing after in a film. So like the Holy Grail or the Lost Ark or the plans inside of R2-D2. That's like and it comes from a Hitchcock film. And so
Jason, yeah. it might be Luke's severed hand.
It might be Luke's severed hand from another dimension. Like
just bringing it up.
It totally could be. I mean, because Han Solo and so what I think what happens is when Han Solo goes down that little thing after Kylo kills him and he falls into like that abyss, he then plops into our universe, and he's old variant. Indiana Jones. Yeah, he's a variant. Yeah. Did you watch it? Did you finish that last night?
You bet I did.
What'd you think? Loki.
And they broke the rule. Never. I don't want to say what it is, but they broke the rule. And again, you do it at your peril, but they did it very well.
Yeah. I had a good time with it. My son, who's I let stay up to watch it with me, who's like 7, was bummed about it, like because it was so just like so. It was like adults, I think, dug it, and like kids were like, "What is this? Where, you know?" And
where's the fun?
Yeah. I still don't know. What's the guy's name? The villain. Are we allowed to?
I don't want to say.
Don't even say. Okay.
Let's at least give it 24 hours.
Give it 24. That's fair. That's okay. Fair. And this isn't a Marvel podcast.
So we'll spoil this movie way in advance, but that TV show that's out now, we're gonna win.
Yeah, that's right. If it's Indiana Jones, I can't help but talk about it. So, yeah. But
we have rules.
Yeah, we have rules and values. All right. Wait. Is this gonna be it?
Do you think, though, like getting back to Indy, do you think it's possible there's like a North by Northwest? Because like Spielberg was big on North by Northwest and referenced it in Close Encounters. Do you think there might be like a chase, like Indy on the chase or Indy on the move kind of element?
Yeah. That's where I was meaning to take my word dribble. Is that basically is the space race the focus of this film? Or did that leak out because Indy ends up going through a chase, through a parade, so to speak, about that 1969 event? And as he's running through it all, he ends up like, we end up seeing this thing. There's something going on here. And right here on the screen, you can see Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Phoebe Bridger, the pop star in this, is just making my brain go to mush on saying her name now. It's not fair. You can't have the same name. I'm just going to start calling the other one Cobra Kai Girl because she wears that skeleton outfit in that song.
Used to be the only Phoebe was on Friends, and then now there's just
right?
a bunch of them. I guess 20 years later, they all named their kid. Yeah,
right.
So there's going to be some Raisin Fins in 20 years we're going to have to deal with too,
I remember reading Catcher in the Rye in like 8th grade and being like, yes, this is my book. And then thinking his sister's name was Phobe. For like a day until I said it out loud and somebody's like, that's Phoebe, you fool. And I'm like, oh, okay.
In the same grade, not to tangent too much, but in the fourth grade, they have that book day. You can go to the Scholastic Book Fair and get your books.
Yeah.
Every year it was Garfield for me. Can't wait to get the Garfield book. And I got the Garfield book, and I was so proud of my reading ability that I read out. Garfield said, I always do things on purpose. But I wrote purpose. I said, it's on purpose.
On purpose.
And some kid went, it's purpose, you idiot. I was like, never speaking out loud again.
There was this tweet, and I want to say it was from William Gibson. I could be misquoting that. William Gibson gets misquoted a lot, for the record. But it was like somebody misspeaking and saying a word incorrectly. And if it was William Gibson, who I think it was, he said something like, someone who says a word out loud is self-educating themselves and knows what it means. And that makes them kind of a rock star, essentially. And I'm like, yeah, it does. It's so pretentious. I hate correcting anybody on anything like that for that reason. But there's a bunch of pics of her that have hit. And she's looking like a 1969, 1970s, like kind of, I don't know,
that mod look a little bit.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't mean to go to see it. I don't know what I'm picking because this program is crap. But and Mike Pappas says hi. Hey, Mike Pappas, how's it going, man? And he is 3PO with that red arm. But yeah, right here you can see people in normal clothes, but it's clearly like they're like testing out like if it's going to work and stuff like that. But you can see the giant leap for mankind there.
I wonder if any of those floats are based off actual floats from the era too. Like, like that was a real like grenade looking moon with the rocket popping out float from.
Right.
I wonder.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, and you probably you're an artist. You know how it goes. They probably went and looked at a bunch of that stuff and started pulling the most eccentric and design heavy stuff and then taking it from there. Because like I did see like a lot of the shop windows and stuff like that, like the signs and stuff that they're using for like, burger 25 cents or whatever the hell it is. They're that stuff's really accurate because I remember seeing one of those signs actually like out here as a kid at a place called Steve's Burgers, which isn't there now. I think it's a taco place now, but anyways, nobody cares.
Which is really weird because a lot of times the Taco Bells become like taco places. Like you ever see like an old Taco Bell in LA and you're like, that used to it clearly is an old Taco Bell, but now it's something else where it's a Burger King or something.
Yeah. All of the ones that had like the original like bell thing, like the bell top. Man, if only I knew a guy who could cast from a Taco Bell in the 90s, though. That would just make everything better for me. I'll be honest with you.
I could do that.
I mean, okay. Wait, and then what's that guy's that one dude, Boyd something. I think it's like Boyd Brock. Let me see if this is going to be. This is the Star Wars book I'm not supposed to be showing now. Wow, this system is terrible, you guys, and I apologize for literally dropping the ball on this in every single way. Because it is impossible to tell what is what. So
because it just says IMG, right, or whatever.
Yeah, that's all you. All you.
Here's a thought that just popped in my head to get a little UFO-ish. Are you familiar with the ramblings of Richard C. Hoagland?
I don't think so.
So Richard C. Hoagland was one of the original like dudes who'd come on to Coast with Art Bell, and he always talked about crystal structures on the moon. Right. And it caught my interest because I grew up reading The Watchmen where Dr. Manhattan built this crystal structure on Mars.
Right.
So I was like, all right, but I guess Hoagland been doing it since the 70s, so no doubt Alan Moore pulled from it. But I mean, so Hoagland used to come on Coast to Coast and just always bring these blurred footages and go, look, this is a whole palace and they're hiding this from us. And Art would go, yeah, I don't. Even Art would be like, this is a step too far. But I'd always put Hoagland in the crazy category for me. But every now and then he gets something a little bit right. And you'd be like, damn, there might be something to Richard C. Hoagland. So if it's not my personal dream that the MacGuffin is the monolith on the moon, because I'm going to be honest, man, like, it's the thing I'm afraid I want too much. It's just too good an idea that I just don't think it'll happen. But it could be the crystal structures on the moon thing, if you want to go into that UFO paranormal side of it. Or it could just be like, remember when they did like the analysis on the moon rocks and that we gave to all the different countries, and they're like, this isn't real moon, what did we give them, like why don't we? And it just, when that came out, all the people who said we never went to the moon were like, see, we never went to the moon, we gave them fake rocks. Like, it was a giant thing amongst the paranormal community for the longest, for like at least a year or two. So
I like, in terms of like what the MacGuffin can be, it's like it could be anything as far as that stuff goes, and with the time that it's set. And like right here really quickly is like the casting call, and it might be too late because they're filming now, but I don't know, maybe try and see if you're out there in the area, maybe you can maybe they will cast you. I don't know. So what I'm trying to do,
short round actors show up for that? Like, can previous cast members, if they're like, I didn't get my call, but I'm going to show up as an extra, like Easter egg themselves into films? I wonder if anyone's ever done that. Like isn't Jim Carrey in the background of something, like as Fire Marshal Bill? Like they just noticed. Yeah, I think it might have been Liar Liar or something. Like he's in the background as Fire Marshal Bill, and people just picked it up.
So this is that Boyd. What's it? Boyd something. Boyd Brock or Boyd something. I can't remember his last name. Sorry, dude. But yeah, there were rumors he was Indy's son for a while, and I gotta say, I'm not thinking that is true. I didn't hear it from like a credible source or anything like that. I did talk to somebody who is connected to art on the film, and they told me that they never saw Indy like on the moon. They never saw, they weren't really giving me anything, but they were telling me what there wasn't. And so don't expect Moonraker, I guess is what I'm trying to say, or whatever.
Right. So it's not going to be like the DuckTales theme won't play like the moon theme.
Yeah.
For like, it's not going to be Indy racing around the moon on structures and stuff. Right.
But there's a lot of stuff in here about Vietnam. And so if Mutt's not in it, you think Mutt Williams, or Mutt Jones as he becomes, is going to be known as or is going to be a Vietnam vet, or you think he's going to die in Vietnam?
Kong? Maybe he finds King Kong. Didn't that happen during Vietnam? Like, am I right on that? Like,
yeah.
Funny thing. So we were talking about American Graffiti too, more American Graffiti, and the Vietnam, and I was like, yeah, Harrison Ford was in there, the cop thing, and then it dawned on me that the Terminator 2 wore the same thing. And then I don't know why, man. So yesterday I was looking at the making of THX 1138. And it just dawned on me, the cops are literally chrome faces in cop uniforms in THX. Like the they're T1000s, right? Like I don't know why after all these years I never put the two visual things together,
Yeah. I wonder what if Cameron even considered that,
He knows. I mean, he's very smart with like little nods and stuff. I would not doubt that there's, like it didn't intend to be, but I think it's one of those things where, well, would they done that? Oh, that just makes it even better, kind of thing. Yeah.
In high school, I had a really, really, excuse me, a really rad teacher named Mr. Keene. He went by Gary, I think, though. His name was Garwin Keene. I think he went by Gary. And had this little Indiana Jones life. This is my real life Indiana Jones. Like I went to high school and I was a complete punker. Got into all these fight with the jocks. Was completely running for my life half the time. Got guns pulled out on me by gangsters and stuff who were
Only
like
the strong with Jason Ward.
right. It's just
Right.
there's a running life theme here, but so I end up going to um the bad kids school. But when I get to the bad kids school, not really a bad kid, just kind of want to do my own thing. So I show up and I'm just like, at that time it's like 1996. I'm just reading Anne Rice books constantly. Like that's my jam. And I'm so this teacher is like, hey man, like why don't you just take all your classes with me? Like you can just stay in my class like all day, and we'll just treat it like college because you're not dumb. And I'm like, okay. And so that I had basically all my classes except for one with this dude, and it turned out he had like written for like Rolling Stone and like covered the Sex Pistols and like all this like really fascinating stuff. And then but every day he'd be like, want to go on a smoke break with me? I'm like, yeah. So he would go and he'd like, he's coming with me, and they'd be like, okay. And then we would go out into the parking lot, and he would smoke. Dude lost a lung. They ended up taking his lung out. And so then he was gone for a while. He comes back, still smoking with just one lung, and now he's dead. So
Oh no.
so don't smoke. But but he told me some wild stories. Like he was at USC and he babysat Nicolas Cage for when he was with Coppola, and like they would like he was a PA for Coppola for a time, and this dude swore he took Nicolas Cage to the comic book store when he was a kid for the first time and got him into comics.
So he bought him his first Luke Cage book.
I don't know.
Cage.
Yeah, I don't know what book it was, but he was friends with, and I saw pictures of him with Nicolas Cage from around the time of Raising Arizona.
Yeah.
And like, and then this guy directed videos for the punk band X, and
Wow.
he but the cool thing was he claims to have been in THX 1138, or he claimed to have been in THX 1138 as a cop. And at the time, I hadn't seen it yet. It was kind of harder to get a hold of it. It wasn't super hard, but it was harder. And yeah, and I wanted to try to figure out if my old teacher Gary Keene was in the student film or if he was in the film.
Right. I think they put, so I have to dig through my DVDs, but they did that special edition of THX 113 where they added the visual effects. Like,
yeah.
And no one gives that credit, by the way. Like that came and went, but it's
It's
phenomenal.
better.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. The visual effects are perfect. Like they did everything. Like it's exactly what you had hoped. The special editions were in terms of like they fixed it and add visual effects and it matched the lighting and it was perfect. I think the student film version was on there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's one of those like movies where when you watch THX 113, you realize how smart George Lucas is.
Yeah.
Like in truth, like he is actually saying a lot. Like when you watch the film, it's very slow and it's not, if not plotting, but you feel miserable and you feel like oppressed as you watch it. But he's having a conversation visually. And like Alejandro Jodorowsky, he does that for me. Like when I watch his films, I'm like, number one, I'm like, what the hell am I watching? But at the same time, I start to go through the symbolism. Like I think we're having a conversation here. Whether we are or not doesn't matter, because if the audience thinks they are, then it's. But Lucas had that, and then never really did much with it again after it wasn't a success.
Yeah, when it doesn't make money, man. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, commerce can be art, but commerce is still commerce. At the end, I know we like to think, hey man, this is a movie, it needs to rise above. And I'm like, that's the hope. the reality is it needs to turn
Yeah.
a profit or you can't keep working. Like that's
Right. Yeah, and no one expects the guy who made Star Wars to be, you know, this indie punk rocker dude, even though for that he is. But
I had
anyways,
almost wished. I'll end this because we got to move on. But
no, go ahead.
I had almost wished that Henson had spoofed THX 1138 with the Muppets.
Yeah.
But kept the oppressive feel. Like, don't laugh it up. Just put Muppets in it. You know, because I think, like, I don't know, there's something about that dissonance, you know, of the puppets and then it'd be Piggy and Kermit and Fozzie would be the Donald Pleasance role, and can you imagine Chrome Beakers?
What was it you and I who was talking about Jim Henson recently? Yeah, like one of a YouTube channel did like a really good like backstory on Henson and stuff.
Defunct Land.
Yeah, the Defunct Land series.
Yes, sir.
And I saw another one. It might have been by them too, and it was on Muppet Babies. And what I did,
yeah, so it's a 6-part, and the Muppet Babies is in the 6th episode. I think they merged that with his passing.
But I used to watch Muppet Babies because you couldn't own. It wasn't realistic that you would own Star Wars back then. Like video and stuff like that wasn't super common, and so that if you wanted to see a live action stormtrooper or a TIE fighter, you had to watch Muppet Babies. Like that's where you would see it. So I used to like watch that show all the time just to see anything from Star Wars. And on the Defunct Land special, like as we're pretty sure it's from, they say that they were basically skating like fair use. They were kind of just like going like do like the almost doing like what YouTubers do. It's under 10 seconds.
There's they got a thing they'd apologize, and then people would see it and go, well, you know, fine.
Yeah. And I'm sure it being Jim Henson and the Muppets probably was like a real easy pass for Lucasfilm to say we don't care. And I do remember sometimes though you would see like the Lucasfilm thing on the bottom, like you would see like in the credits or something like that, like you would see that they credited it. But yeah, interesting time. But look at this guy. This is Indiana Jones's stunt double, and he has all of the dots on his face that Harrison Ford wore to be de-aged, but clearly this isn't to be de-aged. This is to put injured Harrison Ford's face onto this Harrison Ford, the fake Ford. But he looks like
Ferrari.
Yeah, he looks like he's like Indiana Jones, but he's like kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't want to go get artifacts. Like that's kind of
the Saturday Night Live version, right? Like if
it's like
Steve Martin,
Steve Martin, Steve Martin.
Steve Martin comes. Yeah, Phil Hartman would have been the act. You know, comes out. Oh yeah, I'm just an archaeologist.
Yeah.
What do I know?
God, I loved his old blue eyes. Like this one point when he's doing like a song, and it's just like yeah baby yeah, and then he goes, all right, print it, I'd buy it. It's just so stupid.
I like it when he was on the original skit for the Pee-wee Herman show when it was live, like when they would do it as like a show in LA.
Right.
Yeah, and he was the Cowboy Bill or Cowboy Bob, the Lawrence Fishburne role. When they would do it live, he was that. He was great. Because he was really like he played a drunk cowboy. Like you could clearly tell. Oh no, he was a hook fisherman, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Because when Last Action Hero came out, I'm like, it's the dude from Pee-wee. It wasn't, but that's, you know, I was vaguely only one person wears a yellow coat.
Yeah, I was bummed when like later on, like when like people were like really hurt about the Pee-wee show, about how like they felt like they created stuff and like they were robbed of it and like they were owed, and like I guess like Phil Hartman and Paul Rumens never got cool before he was murdered, which sucks because they would have patched it up like over time. It would have went that way. I saw Pee-wee when he came back in like 2010 or whatever, around that point. I went and saw the show, and Kevin Pollak was out there, and he was just chilling. We had like a casual, normal people conversation, and I was like, I didn't really realize at the moment that it didn't click that I was meeting a brownie from Willow. And then afterwards, I was like, I had so many Willow questions.
Oh, he is a brownie in Willow.
Yeah. It was just weird. It was like I knew he was a famous guy, and then I knew that I knew him from my childhood. I just hadn't put it together yet. That and I'm just kind of
one of those
Indian
jerkweeds who used to confuse him with Jason Alexander, around the.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I'm like, they're all kind of balding and fat, right? Like,
yeah.
I hate to be that guy, but I was a kid. And,
wait, I'm Jason Ward and not Kevin Pollak, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm not Jason.
Only by your lavish lifestyle. Kevin is far more. Yeah, but dude, that's awesome. So I didn't see any of the shows when they came back. So this is, so look at that, the war in Vietnam, social crisis at home, and the war in Vietnam. Yeah,
and that was the Hunter College picture that I wanted to bring up yesterday, but or that I did bring up yesterday, I think, but we didn't really talk about. And so what does that say? I mean, it's definitely all it really tells us is it's the backdrop of the Vietnam War. Space races going on. I mean, I wonder is Indy going to be down with? Is Indy going to be in the counterculture, or is Indy like, damn dirty hippies? Like where does Indy going to fall on that stuff? Because he seems okay with the greasers for what it's worth. I don't know if that's any indication of where it's going.
Is he a soch or a greaser? That's a good
question.
Right,
exactly. Right. Is he cool with Pony Boy or not? No. But like where's Indy going to fall on this stuff? Because on one hand, if they do really show an aging Indy who is like completely out of his element with these people and stuff like that, it would make sense. And it would give them something to talk about. But if you're a huge Indiana Jones fan who like watched all the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles and stuff, that dude was in like Chicago hanging out with people who were playing the blues and stuff like that. I don't think it's going to necessarily rock his world to meet a hippie, but this film probably won't care too much about that stuff, I would think. So
what if they gave him what if he turned into old Steven Seagal? Like they gave him the long ponytail, like the black. he had a ponytail with the old hair. Like he became like Lyndon Johnson after he was president. Like he turned into a hippie in the movie like that. Yeah, and he's whipping around with the Indiana Jones with the old guy ponytail. That is something I'd like to see now. Couldn't get more 90s than that.
God. One of my best friends, my drummer actually in my band, he is really big into MMA. And so his enthusiasm kind of bleeds over to me a lot, and I get into it with him. We're going to watch a fight. Let's watch the fight. All right, I'm in. And he was showing me videos of Steven Seagal trying to coach MMA stuff, and it's hilarious. I don't know shit about fighting. I only know about fighting running. No, but I don't know that much about fighting, but I do know when you listen to him talk about like his coaching shit, it was hilarious. It's super funny, and it's a rabbit hole worth going down if you're bored.
It's literally the Mad TV sketch or the In Living Color sketch. Remember when Jim Carrey was like a fake karate instructor? Yeah, and he had like the mustache, and he's just trying to like cop up women, and then they end up stabbing him.
Yeah,
It's you don't know what a real fight is until you see a real punch. Like when you see someone really get hit, you can feel it in a different way. Like instinctually, you're like, oh, someone got hit. Yeah. And when you watch Steven Seagal do whatever he's doing, you're like, look more real in the fake movies. Whatever.
And man, I haven't been punched in a long time, and I'm glad. It is weird though. It's like when you have you been into an adult fight?
No, I mean, I even in the army, I just avoided trouble like the plague. But there was one time, and I was at this t-shirt company, and they had this rule like every week someone had to bring in bagels, and they're like, it's your turn, and I'm like, okay. So I went to Einstein's Bagels out. It's in Kearney Mesa. There was next to this Hollywood Video by the Fries. The Fries are the Incredible Universe. Remember Incredible Universe? And I got the bagels, come to my car. As I'm backing out, this other guy was backing out at the same time, and we both went, tush to tush, boom. It was like a little bump.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, great. So I go out to check it, and this dude just was like, I'm going to break your nose, man. I'm going to break your nose. Give me your wallet. And I've been in a lot of weird situations doing private security for my father. So I just dropped the bagels and walked away. I
Yeah.
don't care the car, just walk. I'm not giving you. Walked right into the Starbucks. If I need a hot pot of coffee, it's going to go right in your face. But like, I'm not fighting a guy in the parking lot. You have my car. I don't care. Cause you just don't know what they have. They could have a knife. They could have a friend, so there's no point.
Yeah, I haven't been in an adult fight, and like I was like high school fights where you have your adult bodies. So I think it kind of is almost the same, but yeah, people are nuts. Anyways, should we talk about some of the Star Wars stuff that we were
Yeah.
talking
If we
earlier?
don't have anything in the
Because
chat, then
yeah, we got into the indie stuff was a lot faster than I thought it would be. So, and then really quickly, let's just out of the chat. Mark Hamilton says, "Up, what's up, Mark? Hey, it's Santa. How's it going, Star Wars Santa? Everyone, make sure you check out Star Wars Santa's show. It's really good spirited. I love it." Mark says, "I was at Bomber Castle is how you say it, Bomber Castle last month, and me and the girlfriend got pics of the set. Security wasn't that tight at all. Got right up to the Nazi motorbikes and got good pics." Where are they at, Mark?
right.
What the hell?
Why are they not with friends like these?
Man, it reminds me of in high school when they were filming the Phantom Menace, or Phantom Menace was filmed and it was out, and my high school girlfriend worked at the Queen Mary, and they were filming the Haunting or something like that, that Liam Neeson movie with the haunted house. And she's like, "Yeah, Liam Neeson was here like all day today, and like we ate lunch with them, and like, yeah." She's like, "I was gonna call you, but I figured you wouldn't want to take." I'm like, "What the? That guy's
Rob
in a
Roy.
Star Wars movie,
right?"
Yeah.
It's Rob Roy, bro.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Look, everyone remembers Braveheart, but let me tell you something. Rob Roy, one of the more underrated films, the gems of the '90s.
Yeah.
Tim Roth, right? Is it Tim Roth? Yeah, Tim Roth. I think is in that one. The bad guy.
Yeah, wasn't he in Les Miserables as well? However the hell you say it.
I can't watch musicals.
Yeah.
Like unless it features Muppets, like dancing and singing. That's the only way you're gonna get like singing in the rain and Moulin Rouge. Or you get my money. That's it.
Yeah, I went and saw Queen's "We Will Rock You," and I was super drunk. Like I had all these Queen friends that I knew, and we were like all together. I got super wasted. Went and saw the musical. Had the time of my life. Went to the first open night of previews, and then went to the second night and was like, "Oh, I'm not drinking. I want to actually take it all in." And I was just like, "What the hell am I watching? What is this?"
You need alcohol. Yep.
Yeah.
It's like, part of the experience. I mean, Freddie wasn't sober, so why should you be?
They have oak and wheat symbol painted on them. What does that mean? I don't know. Overheard some COVID related stuff that was happening but swept under the carpet. Oh, for Indy? Yeah.
Andy related stuff.
Right. Yeah. No, and like basically all of the predictions that are out there right now, I have heard something, at least rumblings of COVID related stuff, which makes sense. But it's like, hopefully everybody's okay. So Jason says, "Can't stay, but wanted to say, keep up the great show. Good vibes." Yeah, dude. And I will see you on Saturday to talk about UFOs. Spooky at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If UFOs are your thing and you want to have a paranormal discussion, come and show up. I figure it has 1 foot in Star Wars, 1 foot in Indiana Jones, and 1 foot in just recent stuff.
Because aliens have 3 feet.
Right. Okay. There you go. Me too. That third lake. Mark Hamilton says,
Stitch, right?
Yeah. Mark Hamilton says that inside of Santa's Discord. I need to get into Santa's Discord. He sent me the invite. And then like that's what I was telling you.
Just hold on.
Santa's
Just when you were your
Discord.
kid, you wanted to go to the North Pole so badly, right? Like that was your dream. If only I could get to the North Pole. I mean, Superman and Santa Claus are both there. I got to get there somehow. And now it's like I got to get into Santa's Discord. Like we're in the future.
Out in San Diego, did you ever have the ads for Santa's Village?
You damn straight we did.
My parents would never take me. Like you could probably look up videos of the old ads if anybody cares. It was like this like low rent theme park, and you could see like, and it's like Santa's Village in the San Bernardino Mountains, and it was like these like little kiddie rides. And as a kid, you're just like, I want to go on that. I'm still like at the age where I see one of those 25-cent spinning rides in front of the grocery store, and I want to go on that too. And so like I was wanting to go, but now it's all gone, and there's like creepy videos of like people breaking into it now on YouTube, like urban explorers going there. It's gone.
It was our version of Action Park, but instead of kids getting hurt on rides, they just got salmonella.
Is that what happened there?
Yeah, it was food poisoning, man.
Oh shit. Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
standards got a little low.
I've seen videos of it since. When I talked about it with my kids, I was like, yeah, there used to be this place I wanted to go up here. And then I showed them, and I was just like, "Oh man, well, wouldn't be surprised if some kids got bored to death there too, because it looked boring when I saw."
It's basically like when you go to like Old Town or like some kind of like local spot where everyone says this is going to be an amazing tourist attraction, but it's really just like 4 gift shops and like a spot, like a photo op. It's like that, right?
Yeah.
Oh, but
Santa just reminded me of another weird adult fight I almost got into. Santa says, gotta go to Santa Claus, Indiana. There's a theme park there and Santa Claus Hall of Fame museum. My friend Zach was actually just there showing me like all the stuff, and he's like, this is weird to look at in June, isn't it? And I'm like, that's really kind of bizarre.
Not if you're in Australia.
When I went to Celebration 2002, me and my friend Freeman went out there, and we got our own hotel, but we didn't stay at the actual place because we figured, we did the math, and it was cheaper to take a taxi at the rate of a taxi than it was to stay at the convention center, and we could save a bunch of money. So we're like, cool. But all there was to eat at this motel that we had was a Denny's across the street. And we went in every day and had dinner at that Denny's, and we were super polite. Like, when traveling out of town, I'm not a rude person, and I'm not rude, especially when I'm traveling. And so we're super polite, right? Well, on the like 3rd night of Celebration, I couldn't really stand the food anymore, but I could stand the fries. I could just eat the fries. I'm like, fine, take like a bite of the hamburger. I'm just like, I can't eat this shit anymore. And so I go, but on this 3rd night, the amount of fries I got was literally 6 French fries. And she puts the plate down, and I look over at Freeman, and I'm like, I got 6 French fries. And like, she could see my hands going like, whatever. She comes over and she's like, is there a problem with your food?
Oh no.
And I'm just like, whoa, Denny's, you guys are good. You guys are going to kill me here. I'm like, well, I've been here a couple of nights, and I'm a little sick of it, honestly. But which I probably shouldn't have said that. But she was already up in my face about it. And I'm like, but the amount of French fries I got, and then she's like, no, she's all the fries come pre-served, and so you get what you get. And I'm just like, all right, whatever then. Yeah, I'm just like, whatever.
You get.
I'm just like, I've given up. At this point.
So in the bag, when they're frozen, they're stuck to the plate.
Yeah.
Like you just pull the plate out, and they're like they just unwrap it, and there's what does that even mean, pre-served? Like that's like fresh frozen. Like,
yeah, but then frozen. The cook comes out, and the cook is this dude in Indiana who, I don't know if 8 Mile was out yet. I don't know what year it probably was.
We're going there.
This was like Slim Shady, and he thought if he had an accent that he should not have, especially in Indiana, that it was going to like be scary. And I kind of just laughed in this dude's face, because you think I'm an asshole now. You just saw me at 22. Yeah, so we ended up kind of getting kicked out of Denny's.
Oh, no.
And the guy was like really trying to fight me, and then like as we're leaving, like the cops come, they're like, there a problem here? Like, we're just going back to our motel because these people don't want to give us French fries.
Well, I mean, so when you said the chef came out, I just thought Swedish Chef would come out. Like,
yeah, no, it was.
Work.
And what's funny is in my mind now, he is literally Eminem, because I don't remember what he looked like, but he had like the bleached hair, and you could tell he was like, he definitely has a SoundCloud account now where he drops his rhymes about making fries at Denny's still, probably.
Well, the Swedish Chef pulls his hat off. He's got this Slim Shady bleach buzz. He rips his shirt open. He's got Conor McGregor tattoos. Like, yeah, well, Indiana Denny's can be rough. And I know, like, it sounds like I'm trying to make light of that, but that's actually true. So
yeah.
It was a year before the pandy hit. My wife's father passed, and she's from Indiana, like near Carmel. Or Carmel. And so we went out there for the funeral. And it was just this, because the Indy 500 was out there, and like they kept canceling every hotel we had. We had 2 backups, and they canceled us, even though we had reservations. It was weird. So I was trying to find a place.
Yeah.
And we had to go a long way out. And so the halfway there, we stopped at a Denny's, and they had a cop just permanently living at the Denny's, the whole night. And it wasn't that late. It was like 10:30, and I'm like, this is really, and it took like 40 minutes to get some omelets. I mean, now, I'll give him credit. Food was well prepared. But I've been in some rough neighborhoods where the Denny's weren't that dangerous feeling. Like, I was this seems like a lot of stuff goes down here at the Denny's.
No, in California, no matter where you're at, like if you go to a Denny's, like it's generally like okay. But when I was doing an academic conference in San Antonio in Texas, and everything closed kind of early. And so the Denny's was the only thing to eat at past 10, 11 o'clock at night. And the one night when we were there, literally 3 fights break out in one Denny's. And it was just like common. It was like, well, that's Texas. I mean,
if we were doing PR for Solo, this would have been the story. It would have been like 5 nights at Denny's,
Yeah, right.
Right.
Mark says, my 7-year-old thinks Santa is a full-time Star Wars YouTuber and Christmas toy thing is just a side gig. Yeah,
that's amazing.
My kids too. I actually got kid points by my kids seeing the video on YouTube and then going like, that's Santa. I'm like, yeah, of course I know Santa. How do you think he brings you stuff?
Kissel Toy Run don't run itself.
So Mark says, you see Star Wars make videos show publishing production details showing Mando season 3 to drop spring 2022. I didn't see that, but that makes sense. I mean, essentially because they're supposed to be filming like around September of this year. So, well, does that make sense?
It takes a year.
That's kind of close. And once again, not saying that yet that her scoop is wrong at all. I wouldn't do that. I'm not saying that, but I believe that it starts filming in September. So unless it's a smaller season or maybe
they're reusing a lot of assets and just building like maybe new Mando assets if they were going to like a Mandalore type thing or something.
Yeah, or maybe with the pandemic and how things were went in production, maybe a ton of just like pre-viz stuff was done early and the visual effects were already done for main sequences and stuff like that. So maybe that's how it's going to happen. So once again, not casting shade on it, not saying it's anything incorrect there, but
they have typically released in the fall though. They're usually like in September.
It's October.
November, right?
It's October. Always so far everything's been in October, and then Book of Boba is not getting an October release. It's getting a December release. They're actually starting later. So at the same time, maybe it's going to go like Book of Boba hits in December and then runs all the way up into Mando in spring, or maybe the publishing is just simply wrong, and it's a pipe dream to sell get the pre-orders in, even though it's not accurate. But who knows?
Well, they'll start selling the toys in the spring, but the show doesn't come out till October.
Yeah. If they can, like it, the Mando stuff has been kind of strange how it's rolled out, and it's like they've tried to have the products come out after the episodes just to not spoil it, but yeah.
Well, the weirdest, like the thing about The Last Jedi that killed me was just the toys coming out in September, and then there was like 3 to 4 month wait for the film, right? Like it was so odd to see like the toys come out that early.
Yeah,
And then
I'm not super into it either. I'm not super into like the toy push thing that like how they were doing it. Where for Force Awakens it made sense, but then to like hope that they could do that forever and to keep doing it and like whatever Midnight Madness sort of thing they came up with stupid names from like, oh, it's Wookiee Wednesday, you guys, we're gonna get out the Wookiee Wednesday, get out the Star Wars toys. I was like, no.
It's Delicious Saturday.
Yeah.
Like a Crumb, you know?
I
would have been, and it'd be cool if Crumb put a sack of toys, right?
Yeah. I meant to talk about it like on one of the shows. Did you ever hear the story about how they came up with the name Salacious Crumb?
No.
So it's in the Rinsler Return of the Jedi book. And like I think it might have been Phil Tippett and a couple of other dudes. They go out and they get super drunk. And they're coming up with, and the guy's trying to say he needs to tie his shoelaces, but he kept saying salacious, and then and so it became like a joke. And then also the artist, Crumb, the dude who draws like the ladies.
Yeah.
So they gave him that name, and I guess Lucas at first was like, no, but then it was kind of funny, and I think it stuck. I think that's how Robert Crumb. Right? Yeah. And I think that's kind of how that name came about. It's in the book. I told it poorly, but it's definitely worth reading that book if you guys are into the making of Star Wars.
Didn't Paul Giamatti play Crumb in a movie? Am I right on that?
That sounds right. I do remember.
I think I'm remembering that one.
I remember there was. I think you might be right, but I don't think I ever saw that movie. It was like in the 90s, right? It was like a 90s.
Yeah, it was around Ghost World time.
Yeah, early 2000s. So Star Wars Canon says, I think they very well could have done some shots during the Book of Boba Fett. Largely the same director, same writer, same cast. Yeah, I mean, the more that we see coming out of this, Book of Boba was able to get under the radar by essentially being season 3 of Mando, and then Mando season 3 is really season 4. But it's just that they're shifting the focus. My whole thing is what's his name? What's Andy? He had a scoop saying that. What's his name? Andy, the guy who was canceled, but then like.
Oh yeah, from
I'm sorry, I'm brain farting.
The movies, yeah, Andy. I know the last name with the beard. Andy with the beard. Andy from Florida. How about that?
Yeah, he had a scoop I meant to get to, and then like the week went weird. And it was saying that like Grogu was and Mando are in Book of Boba. I have no idea if that's accurate or not, but it could be. I mean, but that would be crazy if it happened that quick. If it went back, and that's what we talked about a bit on Star Wars Santa show with like the Paper Moon thing. Like, Grogu might just come back, and if that happens, that's going to be. It's going to be very weird. I still need to watch Paper Moon. I'm still way behind on my life in general. But the toys are usually embargoed. Yeah, they are. And then I spend a good 3 months with Target employees going, hey, Jason, want to see what's in the back of the store? And sending me photos about what they're looking at and stuff like all the time. It never makes any sense like to embargo toys. And what's funny about it too is like it's almost like they think that they're making it hotter by doing that, but in reality, a lame toy. Let's just pretend it's a lame toy. It coming out early and having the mystery around it and trying to figure out what is this has way more like coolness to it and gets way more like longevity than so and advertises the product. And makes it and inspires conversation. Like I'll never get like that big incident that happened around the time of The Force Awakens when Rey with the lightsaber from the end of the movie, that action figure leaked out before the movie hit, and Hasbro just went after everybody like crazy. But people found it at Walmart. It's like you're gonna go after people who found the toy at Walmart. God. And then I had people in stores like who were like giving me all the catalog information, like about like what was going to be coming to the stores and what the prices were. And I put that stuff out. And dude, this Hasbro lawyer came at me for days. And like she's like, and I'm like, well, I am protected under the California Shield Law. And then she's like, well, we found this interview where you said you're not a journalist. And I said, no, I'm not like a journalist who's in a war zone. I don't take myself that seriously, but they were relentless. And I was like, nothing's going to undo the fact that you guys are putting stuff out. Why are
She's
you?
like, I'm an elite strike force team, Jason. You don't understand.
Yeah.
Like...
yeah. It was funny. It was both funny and scary at the same time. I ended up hitting a point where I was just like, oh, well, bury me then. Let's see how far you can dig.
We sent you a free T-shirt and it just says DMCA.
Yeah, that's gonna be my my rap name. I'm DMCA.
That's great.
Hasbro don't see much until episodes drop. Oh, on the Mando stuff. Yeah.
Your first album would be demonetized.
Yeah.
But emphasis on demon. You see what I mean? Like you gotta like play it, right? Demonetized, right?
Yeah.
It's a twofer. So get the red cave, get the pitchfork, money. Add a money.
Demonetized, hypnotized. No. Joel says American Splendor. I think he's right.
Yeah.
Popcorn to Planet. Dale says, I had the stream all queued up to play it started, then no chat showed. I had to restart my computer and sign back into everything to get things to work. Whoa, that's weird. That's I guess a YouTube thing, since we're not really on YouTube when we cast. But that was the key for the Boba toy, the mystery. Yeah. I really like really think that Book of Boba is going to have a ton of overlap with Mando. I think that's just to be expected. I mean, because and I do think that's why obviously we're not getting Mando as quickly as we are. And I think it's going to be a good thing, because if Grogu does come back or doesn't come back, it's going to give some breathing room to make that feel like it happened. Like the audience is going to have more than a year away from Grogu if they just watch the show as it airs, or rarely watch it, which I think is kind of important. Because like I said, man, they messed up Gremlins. Gizmo should have been making them money for years, and they managed to mess that up. So
now, what are the odds Grogu hides in a little chest? Like, can we get that visual right? Like this similar chest from Gremlins, right? Like if Grogu just hides in one of those
little
and he comes with the chest. Yeah, and he comes with the chest, and you're like, oh my god, it's a crossover.
Grogu gets sold by a short round son. So,
or there's the ET race, because they're in the Phantom Menace. They just sell Grogu's to different planets to make money. They were just on a supply drop, when ET crashed, he was actually bootlegging minches.
God, the other bootleg minch.
Sorry, I don't know why I find that so funny. It's the Kessel Run was really a Minch run, dude. Like,
oh man. Wait, Joel says American Splendor was about Harvey Pekar.
I probably got him mixed up in my head,
Yeah,
but Robert Crumb was a pretty wild figure.
No, there was a movie about him though. You're not wrong. There is a movie about him, but yeah. So should we hit on some of the Star Wars stuff that you pulled?
Yeah, we got like an hour. I think that'll do quite well.
Okay. Yeah. So we're gonna do our computer science, and you're gonna add your screen, and then I'm gonna say, yeah, throw it up there.
1 second. Let me just bring this up.
What with this program, I've tried. Like I was telling Rob, like, I'm trying to get it so that everything's second nature. Like I didn't go right in and learn everything all off the first day, so everything was like perfect And then I was just bumbling for days. I decided, like, you know what? I'm just going to slow roll everything out. That way we can get this going. Okay, here we go. So we got this is an ad for Padme shampoo. You'll feel so relaxed. You're practically dead.
Padme Downey.
Yeah.
So
what's going
right
on
here is, so this is George. So again, George is being interviewed by Paul Duncan, and it's at the end of the book where he gets into his ideas of the sequel trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
So, he started talking about the troopers, and he goes, yeah, the stormtroopers would not have been in his version. He goes, in my version of the third trilogy. He says, George goes, I had planned for the first trilogy to be about the father, the second trilogy to be about the son, and the third trilogy to be about the daughter and the grandchildren. Episodes 7, 8, and 9 would have taken ideas from what happened after the Iraq War. Not to get too political.
Oh, okay, Star Wars isn't political, dude. Don't worry about it. It's cool.
Okay, you fought the war. I'm not going to do the voice, but you killed everybody. Now what are you going
to do the voice? It's good. It's good. No.
You killed everybody. Well, what are you going to do? But
oh shit, that's really good.
Rebuilding afterwards is harder than starting a rebellion or fighting the war. When you win the war and you disband the opposing army, what do they have? What do they do? The stormtroopers would be like Saddam Hussein's Ba'athist fighters who joined ISIS and kept on fighting. The stormtroopers refuse to give up when the Republic win. They want to be stormtroopers forever. So they go to the far corner of the galaxy, start their own country and their own rebellion. There's a power vacuum, so gangsters like the Hutts are taking advantage of the situation, and there's chaos. The key person is Darth Maul, who would have been resurrected in the Clone Wars, who had been resurrected in the Clone Wars cartoons. He brings all the gangs together. So Paul Duncan asks him, Darth Maul was the main villain? George says, yeah, but he's very old. We have two versions of him. One is with a set of cybernetic legs like a spider, and then later on he has metal legs when he's a little bit bigger like a superhero. We did all this in the animated series. He was in a bunch of episodes.
Wow.
So, and it goes on, but just that right there, like, again, yeah, I mean, George was adding politics. The Hutts as the power vacuum. This actually, I don't want to say what it is specifically, but ties into the Loki episode quite a bit. There's a discussion about this, quite a bit. So, yeah, it's a key. Do you have any thoughts on that before we continue?
Well, not on the Loki things. I'll just start spoiling the whole show if I talk about Loki. But,
right.
Yeah, I once again, you have Lucas. Now we have Lucas contextualizing the original trilogy during Vietnam, and now we have Lucas contextualizing his sequel trilogy in a post-Iraq, like with the Baptist thing and everything like that. So it's like, there you go, as you pointed out, that's a huge thing. The George Lucas idea of Maul coming back, bringing all of the Hutts and all that stuff together makes a lot of sense, but also the idea I feel like is maybe still being used. What they were doing with Solo when they bring Maul in, it looks like that idea of him uniting the crime world together and bringing all of those elements together and where that was going to go sounds like it actually was happening.
Yeah, I mean, that is the whole key to Solo. I mean, some people sort of accuse that of being a throwaway bit, but seems like that actually is pulling from, George's notes. I hand him to Bob. I don't know what he did with them,
Yeah.
Yeah. We were at Denny's. It was on the table,
Or Bob complained about his French fries, and the waitress tried to beat me up, and we lost.
I got more than Bob. I got 8,
And Bob is very competitive. Very competitive.
He's like, these aren't midichlorians, George. You know what I mean? Like, it's because you got more and you're not better than me. Like, all right, okay, all right.
So I was like, F you. I'm gonna go hang out with Spielberg. Bye. But no,
Steven. Sorry.
Yeah, with Steven. No, it does. I mean, it does kind of amount to that. Like that's the thing is I know like what's that guy A something who shows up all the time. It was always like, he's like frustrated with the modern Star Wars. It's like, yeah, it's like you can say it might have amounted to that. it might have amounted to nothing because of it was put in Solo, then Solo didn't perform, flopped, whatever you want to say, and then you end up with them killing Maul in Rebels, which the scene by itself is great, contextualized bigger in the larger universe, I think was a mistake. We have a Kenobi show coming out right now, and boy, would that have been cool to have maybe looked forward to. We're getting Darth Vader instead, but it's very clear to me that in my mind, it would have been Maul had it not been Vader. Had they been able to use Maul, they probably would have just gone that way.
Yeah, but had they gone with George's ideas to begin with, and Maul, I don't know, maybe Maul did, because the Maul thing in the cartoon happened after Episode 7 came out, right? So
the cartoon thing. Well, wait.
Yeah,
Yeah. Maul and Solo was after Luke. They had already rejected Lucas's ideas. The cartoon happened when Maul's resurrection happened during the Clone Wars when Lucas was still running the show.
Right, but the episode with him versus Obi-Wan is post Episode 7.
Yes, yeah.
Right. So had they used George's ideas and Maul had been the antagonist of 7, 8, and 9, then that Clone Wars episode would not have happened, right? Because he would be alive.
The Rebels episode?
The Rebels episode. And then even in the Kenobi series, he wouldn't be fighting Maul because then Maul would have been the bad guy, unless he just lost again. So there's a lot of what ifs, bro. It's a lot of branching timelines, you know.
no, it really is. Yeah, and it's like, and I try as a fan who looks at the whole thing, like, okay, Maul's introduced in 1, you think he's dead, he comes back in 7. You're like, okay, it's kind of cool. On one hand, like, knowing what I know of Maul, I don't know, like, because Maul essentially becomes Snoke. And would Maul taking the Snoke place have really, and he's old, so he's Snoke. And he's damaged, so he's Snoke. It's Snoke. It's essentially the Snoke concept. And so it's like, does it really, is it better? And I know fans who make associations are going to go, yeah, of course it is, but I'm not so sure. I'm not sure. When I just try to reconfigure Episode 7 and change out Maul for Snoke, do I feel like it's better? I don't know. I don't know if I like the look of it in a way.
Story, no, but he goes on to what Darth Maul would have done. So that's a good place.
Let's go on, by all means.
So George says, Darth Maul trained a girl, Darth Talon, who was in the comic books as his apprentice. She was the new Darth Vader, and most of the action was with her, so these were the two main villains of the trilogy. Maul eventually becomes the godfather of the crime universe because as the Empire falls, he takes over. And the movies are about how Leia, I mean, who else is going to be the leader? Am I right? I made that up. Is trying to build the Republic. They still have the apparatus of the Republic, and they have to get it under control from the gangsters. That was the main story. It starts out a few years after Return of the Jedi, and we establish pretty quickly that there's this underworld. There are these offshoot stormtroopers who started their own planets, and that Luke is trying to restart the Jedi. He puts the word out. So out of 100,000 Jedi, maybe 50 or 100 left. That's interesting. So that means the Jedi were still around hiding?
Yeah.
The Jedi have to grow again from scratch, so Luke has to find 2- and 3-year-olds and train them. It'll be 20 years before you have a new generation of Jedi. So one second, there's a couple of things in there. One, some fun and then some like interesting ideas. I think, so one, the Godfather, Maul becoming the Godfather of the crime universe. Is that, you think Lucas would have put in a Coppola shot somewhere in there? Like, or, would have nodded to Francis in some way,
Yeah. Yeah. They would have had Orn Frita show up.
Or Franzez.
And he's like
a bounty hunter named Franzez.
He's like, may your first child be a masculine child. And Maul's just like,
I'm smart. Not like the other Jedi,
Yeah.
And then I do find it interesting that that the Hutts are like vying for power. They would really hate Leia would there be like, she killed one of us, would that have been like a thing, you think?
Yeah. That's one of those. I think for Lucas, like, and when you look at what he did with Clone Wars, he basically did use every mafioso trope with the Hutts in like a couple of moments in that show. Like one even has like a 1920s looking like black slicked hair kind of thing going on and everything. It's just strange. But I do think that like yeah, he would have used the Hutts again, and it would have. But I gotta say, I think the Nazi remnant idea for the First Order is better than this.
It's a
I'm
clear and present bad guy. It's not
yeah.
as vague, right?
Yeah, it very much. I mean, it feels like it's not as much of a retread, but it also it wants to recontextualize the galaxy and move into a new conflict. I'm not so sure if I'm feeling like it's a better conflict, because I mean, and especially when you can still do the crime story without making that like the head of it. Like you know what I mean. You don't have to. That crime story gets to exist either way.
My Blue Dantooine or My Blue Naboo. My Blue Naboo. I like
Rick
that.
Moranis is out of retirement and he's playing the world's most lovable droid.
What if he played Darth Maul because they didn't want maybe Ray Park's problematic? So they go, we got Rick Moranis, you know, like you want a Darth helmet? Well, you get Darth helmet.
Yeah, you can't take Darth helmet. Yeah, it's weird because like it's all fascinating stuff, but I'm so far not feeling like Disney made a big mistake. Like I'm not feeling like it was a huge blunder based off of this so far. I'm not like that was such a better idea yet. And
Yeah,
I
and
do
funny,
think
no
that
mention of the wills or anything either in this.
no.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it is up here a little bit, but it's not like he doesn't get into.
And Lucas never I don't think could work that stuff out to make it work. I think it was a concept that he did that was a fluffy concept and we are obsessed with it. I know I am. I always think about it, but it's probably nothing. It was probably never really anything too deep. And then what he was talking about the micro world and all that stuff. The thing about the micro world conversation, does that come up in here at all? Is that what you're talking about? Like,
No,
no. Okay.
no.
So I have a feeling what he was talking about was once again more of a theme. And like a lot of people were taking it to say like, oh, we go down into like the science of things and it gets all deep. And I really don't think, I think it was like it was midi-chlorians 2.0. And I don't think it was as important, but who knows? I mean, but is there more to it? Does Lucas say more?
The thing it is a little bit. So I do want to mention the idea that Luke will have to go and find 2 and 3-year-olds and train them. I'm like, so back to taking the kids, you know?
Yeah. And once again, is that a movie that I don't know if that's a movie that I really that doesn't sound super interesting.
Or
Like,
if that happened off screen, right? Like it's in the crawl.
yeah, if it's like in the subtext. I mean, if it was to happen, it would just be like the Mando episode, right? This kid's special and he's being guarded by these Hutt crooks, and then Luke Skywalker comes in. It doesn't, but this what he's talking about for his sequel trilogy idea, and where he's placing it, it kind of is reminding me of the Indiana Jones and the Saucermen script issue, and that it doesn't really feel like it's taking how much time has passed into play here very much, in the sense that when episode 7 starts, Mark Hamill is still an older man. And like the way it's talked about here, you almost hear like Luke is just going right at this. This is just happening right then. But unless he wanted to de-age everybody right
they're
away,
all CGI. It's CGI.
there was
Luke, CGI
there was
Leia.
a crazy rumor that was published that George Lucas was buying up the rights to all kinds of classic actors to do in some future production, and this is before the Disney buyout. I've never gotten to
We
get
meet
into,
Leia's mother, and it's Debbie Reynolds.
and it's Debbie,
And
yeah,
there's a
but
Jedi rock sequence with her and
yeah,
and the other 2 cats from Singing in the Rain.
but Lucas always wants to push things further. Did based off of what he's saying here, did Lucas plan on going right to the de-aging route? Was that going to be what pushed the envelope in George Lucas's sequel trilogy? because
Jedi taps.
if there's he says there's like 20,000 Jedi left. Is that what he says?
He says so out of 100,000 Jedi, he means from the original trilogy, from the prequel trilogy, there was 100,000 Jedi. Is what he's saying. There's only 50 to 100 left.
So
look, that again, like that opens up. Like, let's say that happened, and he's like, yeah, there's like 50 or 100 left. So where were they? Well, 50 to 100 Jedi couldn't have teamed up and beat Vader, and like, were they so spread apart? Like, it opens up more problems than I think it answers, right? Like,
and it might just be an arbitrary number he's pulling out of his butt for the conversation for like emphasis.
Even if it's 10 of them, like 10 of them couldn't have, you know what I mean? Like, it's so weird, but
yeah. I mean, we do see when like 4 or 5 of them go after Sidious, he does one sweet move and takes most of them out. Like
wasn't believable though. Like,
yeah,
the verisimilitude of that scene.
Yeah. That said, yeah, I'm not going to take Lucas's like numbers to mean too much here. I mean, just to be like, as like he means there was quite a bit more than you'd think. And that's where he's going with it, but we
call it Lucas math, right?
Yeah,
it's horrible at the math.
But you have all these Jedi who are alive, and then Luke is having to go. Well, if we take the age into account, like, and it takes 20 years to get this new generation going, how old is Luke supposed to be?
He just says it's a few years after Jedi.
Yeah.
So, like, it seems more like heir to the Empire territory.
Right. So that makes me think that if Disney wanted to go in on the idea, they were going to have to get the de-aging stuff solid. I will say, I'm not mad I saw 16-year-old or 18-year-old Leia in Rogue One. I'm not mad I saw creepy CGI Tarkin in Rogue One. I'm not mad that I
like that
saw
CGI.
Luke Skywalker. I'm not mad I saw Luke Skywalker show up. But could you imagine Luke training Rey at 30 years old to being CGI?
You want to see a real world example of this? Tron,
yeah.
Tron.
There was that one gangster movie too on Netflix with Robert De Niro, but
it would have looked probably a lot like the Tron, because that's the same tech around the same time.
Well, and I'm also assuming that Lucas's idea was to make huge jumps in that. But he's
probably talking to James Cameron. He was like, we got the mapping, the face mapping. Yeah, we can do it.
But I still think with Lucas, or with where we're at now, I still don't think it would have been convincing and satisfying. And I think that we would simply have transplanted the discourse for fake people. Now George Lucas is putting fake people in his movies, and it would, and we'll have to see too, like how Indy looks like in this new one.
His background isn't real to you. Look at the green, man.
Right? Yeah. George Lucas doesn't care because the movies aren't real. I think that's what he said a few times. Well, it's not real.
Yeah, we know. That's why we go to the theater.
Yeah.
At no point anyone in the theater was like, "Oh my god, it's another world run!" Like,
but I will say too, though, that like all of the stuff that Lucas is giving in this thing so far is context. It's not a movie. Yeah. It's not a movie.
Yeah, I don't see the arc, right? It is more like world building.
It's what were they doing? What was going on? But in this so far, I don't see what is Luke. Where is he going?
You ready for the thing that would have triggered the whole internet? And if they had done this without George, this would have set off all your Mike Zeros, I guess. Like,
oh wait, was Jeff Bridges going to play Luke Skywalker? No, Mike Zero uses those weird thumbnails where it's like different actors for Luke, and I'm like, is he the greatest troll ever? Is he Andy Kaufman? Like, do I love him? Because
it is a good idea, though, right?
Like, yeah, no. If he's Andy Kaufmaning the whole thing, I love Mike Zero. I think he is therefore a genius.
Right.
And
yeah, if it's some form of like stage play. You know, it's clever. It's clever.
Yeah.
It's very clever. You gotta at least give him that, right? Like he's not just cranking out what everyone else is saying.
Right.
So here it goes. It goes, by the end of the trilogy, this trilogy, Luke would have rebuilt much of the Jedi, and we would have the renewal of the New Republic with Leia, Senator Organa, becoming the Supreme Chancellor in charge of everything. So she ended up being the chosen one. Not my Star Wars, right? Can you imagine?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
and
that would have been like, no, like Kathleen Kennedy made Leia. I could just see it now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The Force is female.
I mean, I'm not against all that, but I could see people going, Lucas would have never done that. Like, I could just see that being
no,
construed.
they said that was a thing. Lucas wouldn't do that. There were so many assumptions and parroting or puppeting of George Lucas in the last couple of years about what he would say, based off of he didn't say these things, but they just assumed what he would say based off of socioeconomic background, class, and race. It was just these assumptions.
Well, I think what this also does, and he's not saying it directly, but he's implying it, is that no, Luke was not the chosen one, or Vader wasn't the chosen one at the end of Jedi. Because that's the whole like recontextualizing of the original trilogy with the prequel trilogy. Well, see, he did bring balance, and everyone's like, how did he bring balance to the Force? If like, you know, like he killed Palpatine and then they came back, well, there wasn't balance. Like, I don't know, like it doesn't really pan out. So if she's a chosen one, she brings balance by bringing it right back to square one. Like, I don't know, it brings up again a lot more questions than I think it answers.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah,
Like,
and
if you write it down.
no, and that's like I said, I always was my gripe is like, people oftentimes think that balance means there's as much good as there is evil, and it's like, no, that's not what it means. Like, that's not what Lucas is getting at. But then when you get into the Rian Johnson one, I feel like he kind of takes balance to mean something different than Lucas too. And it's like, that's Lucas's fault, because he danced around it, didn't want to commit to saying what it was. Mark Hamilton says, I hope they use Talon in a solo Crimson Dawn series. Yeah, I have a feeling, I mean, wouldn't it be, I think Jeremy Conrad might have suggested it, I can't remember, a couple days ago in the chat, that like, wouldn't it be cool if Talon was in Acolyte, if they used that character there? I think that would be neat. But once again, like, as far as like that kind of stuff goes, like, I don't have like a huge connection to like Talon. Like, I feel like it's all art and design, and like, and it's a good design. So therefore, yeah, rad, use it. On the flip side of it, I feel like if once they put Talon into something, whatever came before is just getting tossed out the window. So if you have like any love of what we've seen from that character before, you have to like let it go, because it's going to be the character is going to be redefined. That's what happens constantly with Star Wars. But Dale says, I get both views. I think it would have been different, not necessarily better. Seeing the end of Darth Talon so soon would have been a disappointment to some. So yeah, and then he goes on to say, I'm all for a second Acolyte bringing the Sith back and having Darth Talon in that 1,000 years in the future. And then he says, the first Acolyte, come on, go over. The first Acolyte movie finds the Sith. The second one finds the secrets of the Sith and brings their cult back, basically. Yeah, I'm with you there. Like that, or their religion back. That would be cool. I mean, it would have been like a good structure to like hang things on. But I will say, like with what Lucas is saying, it feels less like a retread, but it feels the most like sequel-ish, like trying to make it happen when it's not happening, kind of thing.
I mean, having the original trilogy characters have to fight a prequel trilogy character does wrap that, and then give it there'll be some new Jedi, there's a new apprentice, apparently, you know.
Yeah.
And it would have been, you know, obviously his daughter or Leia's daughter or whatever. So there would have been new characters. It's not like he's breaking the whole script down, right? Like,
sure.
So yeah, I mean, that's the only thing that I can say, like, that I just think like you can't really get around with the sequel trilogy, is that it feels like the beginning of 6 new films rather than the end of 9. Like, that's
right.
Sort of how I take it, you know. because that you can't. There's very little prequel. Like, how does it wrap up the other? It wraps up in a way the previous 3 films, but not the previous 6. I don't feel.
Yeah. I still feel like even after the sequel trilogy that we did get is hit, and like with Palpatine and stuff like that, and like how they come back, I don't feel like they ever came up with the explanation that made the whole thing click and need to work, or to work, that was satisfying. I don't feel like Lucas's idea here is super satisfying, but and it was still runs into the same kind of issue, because like Maul, Lucas did the same thing. He brings Maul back, but he doesn't show you it happen. It never shows it happen. And it's just like, oh, his hate has kept him alive. And it's like, what? And then thankfully in the Clone Wars, the story that they told was so much fun. And I had such a good time with it. I was like, okay, I'm not going to really dwell on it. I'm going to dwell with like where we're going and how crazy this has been. And I'm enjoying this. And it's been like it's been shocking and surprising. And so I'm digging it. So then years went by with small stories that I kind of let it go. But with Palpatine thing, he comes back and it doesn't really get to go very far. It's like in one episode he's back, and the explanation isn't there. And then you're like, okay, so it didn't kind of get that swept under the rug, but then you bought it kind of thing in the same way. Oh no, you're getting your brains pushed in.
Which way do I go? Do I go good. Old trilogy or prequel trilogy? Which way do I don't know what to do. I'm in the middle. Little bit of background improving.
Right. That's why George Lucas made the prequels, so we could get to this point right now using CGI.
This is the culmination of all that technology.
Yeah. But yeah. So yeah, I go like, we don't know anything about like what Lucas had envisioned for the grandkids. Like, he does mention them. But he doesn't like really like talk about them. They don't seem like they're very defined characters, at least in this. Unless he says more. Was there anything more to the stuff?
There's one thing about the wills here and the midi-chlorians, if you're interested in dealing with it.
Yeah. I want to hear it all.
It's right here at the top. George says the midi-chlorians started the birth process in Anakin's mother. The wills communicated the command to the midi-chlorians, which activated the DNA that germinated the egg. That's why Anakin doesn't have a father. He was, in a bizarre and metaphorical way, touched by God. But in this case, they happen to be one-celled animals.
Okay.
I know, right? Like, you're not getting more answers.
So is he saying that the wills are one-celled animals, or one-celled thing? And then so essentially, like, yeah, so he's going with more of like a cosmic God concept of all of these like one cellular things that connect us all together. And
the zygote. Zygote.
Yeah. I am Darth Zygote. But
you know, that doesn't sound too far from something that would have actually happened.
It was probably in a novel, and he was like a baby man Sith.
It's in the Muppet Babies episode of episode 7, right, where they learn about biology and they fight Darth Zygote. Like,
yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to be like empathetic right now, and I'm trying to imagine like J.J. Abrams or somebody like that who comes in, and Lucas is like, yeah, there's the one cell and it made Anakin. And you're like, okay, like what am I supposed to do with this? Like, based off of what he's saying right now. So I'm guessing that he laid all of this stuff down, and it was just all these random loose ideas. And then Michael Arndt had to take that and make an outline using Lucas's ideas to the best that he could. And then that's what the treatment was, right?
Right. So 2 things. One, that's why I want to see the Arndt script. Like it is that thing in the Indiana Jones warehouse. I just want to. I'm not saying it's going to make it better or this is what they should shot. I just want to know, how he was translating George's ideas into an actionable, script. So it is a thing that I really wish one day they would produce. Doubtful, but hopefully it'll leak one day. But yeah.
Well, one day, I mean, one day they may let Rinsler make the real story of the Force Awakens, and when they
What
do, it could happen. It's possible. I don't know.
What if it's just something they throw in the Disneyland gift shop? You know, because there's
Right.
always those random exclusives. You know, it just happens to be the aren't script. We just hit it, and not in the Galaxy's Edge. Like they put it like in the Haunted Mansion area, like it's the ghost of Star Wars or something. Like
It's like I was over here getting a mint julep, and then I got the Michael Arndt.
beware of hitchhiking scripts. You know,
Yeah.
like what? Like
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And then two, before I lose my train of thought. Oh, hot take on this.
Yeah.
I know it's easy to say, well, JJ heard that and Bob Iger heard it and we don't know what to do with it. I gotta imagine, just from a financial standpoint, had the Phantom Menace 3D and the merch from Phantom Menace 3D done really well, I think this would have flown a lot better. Because like
true.
I was there for that, and we took a wash. I mean, a huge bath, whatever you want to call it, like a wash. We did not sell anything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and when they were like Maul doesn't sell, you know, I'm like, I know you shouldn't make decisions based on what you think will sell to the public. Like it's not a good, but they do. They will never admit it, but they do.
I think you have an excellent point. I don't think they would have allowed Maul to have been killed in Star Wars Rebels at that time if they thought that there was live action marketability of the character. And I think people at Lucasfilm probably knew that Disney was wrong, or that thinking was incorrect, which is why they got him into Solo. At the same time, it's like, yeah, I remember when he shows up in Solo, you're like, well, you've already killed him though in the cartoon, so gosh, why?
Again, I had to look. I learned this. I don't know why anyone's forgetting. Like, I don't care what they say.
Mm-hmm.
The EU proved to me that the only thing that's canon is the movies, and even then, probably not. You know, like Lucas right here is saying he would have, in the end, Leia would have ended up being the chosen one overall. You know, which completely takes away from Anakin fulfilled the prophecy, really, because he saved his son and he brought balance. Like, that's not. So he's always changing and reorganizing, and from a certain point of view, you know, they keep using that line, but. So like, yeah, when I hear, you know, pundits, you know, the conversation amongst fans go, well, this can't happen because in this cartoon, I'm like, this is no different than when I was a kid in a comic book shop and I was told Wolverine can't do something because in issue 113 he did that or something happened. And I'm like, look, they're gonna hire a writer, and if a writer puts Wolverine in there and they know Wolverine's gonna sell comics, they're gonna do it. They don't care, you know, and you'll just have to do look at the X-Men films. The films themselves never made any sense, like never tied in. Like when they did X-Men First Class, and they're like, yeah, here's Magneto in the 60s. And I'm like, and then you see Magneto in the 80s, and I'm like, so how did he age into Ian McKellen? How did Matt go fast? But what happened? And like, did he unlimited power himself and like age himself 40 years in 10-year period? You know, like nobody aged that badly. So it's just like you just have to constantly roll.
He's a mutant.
So they were always changing that lore with every film, and people are like, okay, you know, like, you know, good enough.
Yeah. It's man, it's interesting to hear what was on the table, and it kind of has my head sort of spinning in a way, in the sense that I'm like, man, like what would you give up? Like, what would you have, you know, and how would they have reconfigured things? Like, obviously Rey would have just been a family member of the Solos or the Skywalkers, and you wouldn't have been asking who she was, so that mystery's off the table. Poe Dameron would have essentially become like her cousin or her brother, and Finn too, and then you would have just had like, it would have been I don't think right now when I'm just trying to bring everything back to like look at two conceptual ideas, trying to forget I saw the sequel trilogy and just looking at like the basic layouts of what we know and in those things together, I still think that that Abrams came up with and Kasdan came up with a better foundation for it.
I think that their solution was, okay, these things are, like you said, Rey would have been a daughter or related to the Solos or Luke or whatever. These things would have been clear. Rey and Finn's characters, whoever they were called, would have been clear in terms of who they were. Adding the mystery element to that, I think JJ did that to add something extra to the movie that feels like you need to see the next one in a way. You know, like it just, if everything's answered there, then, you know, I mean, I know for a fact that if Rian Johnson had written episode 9 and shot it, he would not. I mean, we feel like he wrote himself in the corner. What do you do next? He knew what to do next. You know, like coming from Breaking Bad. Like, you ever listen to the Breaking Bad, the Making Breaking Bad podcast, or that Vince Gilligan and them do? So they've been doing it since season 2 or 3. And Vince and the whole crew get on there. And they bring on the director of each episode, the writer of each episode, from Breaking Bad on through Better Call Saul, and like the Rian Johnson episodes. And he would constantly talk about, yeah, we would write ourselves in the corner, but we always did that so that we would have to work twice as we wanted to tell the best story we could tell, and then we'd have to do the work. Sorry, it's going to be tough work, but it's just something that he said he learned on X-Files with the what's the showrunner from X-Files, Chris
Carter.
Chris Carter, yeah, it's just something that Vince learned on X-Files. Don't just keep piecemealing it out to drag it. People catch on to that, right? Write yourself into a corner. We didn't know. Here's how we solved it. And if you keep developing that tool set of solving those problems, you'll get better and better and better at it.
Right.
You know, and I think Ryan pulled from that. He just wrote the most complete film. It's a complete film, you know, like whatever you think, The Last Jedi is a complete film. And everyone's like, what do you do next? I think JJ is the different TV mindset. This is the battle of TV mindsets. You know, he's like, no, dole it out. Right? String it along to the next episode. Cut it off right before you get the answer. Tune in next week. And that's when I saw that mentality. I took it from the TV stand. Like, we're seeing two different mindsets. And I was the champion of JJ, but having seen Ryan's approach, and I know him being on Breaking Bad,
yeah,
I gotta say, I'll take the Vince Gilligan, you know, approach to Star Wars over the Lost, you know, approach. And I love Lost. I'm not knocking it. It's just, you know, if it's a value of percentages, you know, like one's in 97, one's in 98, or 97.2, I'll take the 0.2 over because you're getting a complete film.
Right.
Versus constantly the speculation is, I wonder who our main protagonist is. Like, I did that with the prequel trilogy. I was like, who the hell am I rooting for? You know, when you were mentioning it's Padme as the protagonist, like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I wish you had told me that in 1999 when I was sitting there going, I don't know who to root for.
Yeah.
A Sebulba, I'm rooting for him. He got the shaft.
Yeah.
You know, he didn't cheat. I mean, he cheated, but no more than anyone else at that.
It was a dirty race. It was a dirty race.
You had to cheat too. Everyone's cheating. It's the wacky race. No one goes, hey, man, you know, the wacky races.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, dude. Ben Quadraneros would sleep with your wife before the race and tell you right before the race. That was how he did it.
She's in my DMs, Sebulba. She's in my DMs.
Yeah. But yeah. I really think that when you get down to George Lucas and what he was throwing out there, it's not seeming like it was that thought out. It doesn't seem like it was that complete. It's seeming like it was a bunch of ideas, and it was not. I don't know. Once again, like, and this is just me assuming that he didn't write a treatment himself, and that what he's saying is basically what he was saying to them. Like,
I want to know, did he bring the yellow legal pad?
You're right.
You know, here it is. Hold on, and everyone's like, and Kathleen's like, don't. He does this, you know.
Yeah,
we've been here. It's been 20 years of this, 30 years, you know. Like, just let him with the legal pad. Okay, and then you know, and he's pointing and he's passing it around. But yeah, I mean, I have no clue. I've never met George Lucas. I have no idea how that meeting goes down. Yeah. But I'm certain he said all this to Bob Iger, and Bob was like, brilliant. we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
You know, sign the deal, and then we're definitely not doing
it. No, I wouldn't be surprised if Bob Iger was like, Disney getting Star Wars and any Lucas idea, let's do it. Yes. And then once they started getting into development, it was like, I don't know about that, Bob Iger, because Bob Iger, it's not like Bob Iger writes movies. It's not like Bob Iger, you know,
he has a masterclass, which I've watched, by the way.
Yeah,
ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You ever want to do a review of the Bob Iger I'll take notes next time. I could put it in while I'm working and just take Bob Iger notes, because it's clearly like he's a little thing. He'll be like, yeah, I don't go to work, stay late, and I don't, you know, you go in when you need to go and you do this and you don't. And it was like, yeah, you have assistants, Bob. You know what I mean? Like, you have like PAs and secretaries. Like, he's trying to relate the CEO life to the average worker life, and I'm like, that is not like shut up, Bob. Like, don't. You're not making yourself look too good.
Yeah, so. It's like, yeah, I'm a welder. I'm gonna go in when I need to weld something, because why bother doing that? I'm not gonna burn myself out and all my welding. You know, it's like, no, that doesn't apply to anybody.
Work-life balance. You know,
but I mean, the thing about Bob Iger, I think that from the very little I do know about him, is that it just seems like he was very pragmatic, could tell a good idea from a bad idea, had enough brains to know when something was just like really lame and or harebrained, and would call it out.
He's a godsend compared to Eisner and Katzenberg.
Yeah.
I mean, have you ever read Disney War?
I haven't read it, but I've heard, I know a lot about Eisner.
So the audio novel to put in, if you want a TV series in a book form, is Disney War, and there's sort of a pseudo sequel, not written by the same guy, but they ended up sharing notes, and the guy who wrote Disney War did the forward to the sequel called They Would Be Kings or They Might Be Kings. It's the DreamWorks story. So it picks up right when, so Disney War ends up with Katzenberg leaving, and Eisner being replaced by Iger, and being, you know, and the relationship with Pixar, you know, being fixed and brought into Disney. And then They Would Be Kings picks up right with picks up right when they form DreamWorks with Giffen, Spielberg, and Katzenberg.
Right.
So there was this whole thing going around a few years back about Spielberg. Remember, he was going to do like a Halo. Microsoft was supposed to build some Hollywood studio to do the Halo series.
Right.
Right. And having read that book, I'm like, it's never going to happen. And my friend who was in the business was like, no, man, you don't understand. They're spending this amount of money. I'm like, it's never going to happen. And he goes, why? I'm like, look, I know books are written from a certain point of view. I get it. But there's something that rung true in that series is Spielberg lets other people spend their money, and then he turns left. He doesn't. That's why the very first film he directed after the DreamWorks deal wasn't for DreamWorks. Like, you would think it would, you know, like it would have been it wasn't for DreamWorks, you know, like Saving Private Ryan wasn't a DreamWorks movie. Right. And like, that was a huge point. Why are we building all this studio and this facility and a man-made lake? And there's so many details that DreamWorks people don't know about. All this money being spent, and he's working with other studios. He's like, well, he likes to have his eggs in each basket. And I'm like, that's a cagey dude, man. And he loves, you know this, Hollywood producers love to spend your money, not their money. You know? And so when I was like, he's letting Microsoft spend their money, and he's never going to follow through on this. Like, and they will shut that down. When they learn how much money that studio lost, and they had everything. Like, that was the dream team, you know, like not the OJ dream team, the Hollywood dream team. That was
Shapiro. It had Shapiro. It had, if the glove don't fit, you must have quit.
The dude, the old guy, you know, what's his face on Fox News every day, won't shut the F up. That guy, you know. Dershowitz. Thank you. They got Dershowitz. Yeah. So, but yeah, when you saw how much money that studio lost and why they lost it, I'm like, Microsoft is not going to spend that kind of money. They make software. They don't make movies and TV. It's not the same thing as video games. You can't just, you can't actually, with games you can resell. You can't add DLC. Imagine if it was like, buy the DLC for Mando season 2 and you just get all this extra content doled out. People would be pissed, you know, like, now fans demand DLC for games. You know, why are you making me buy a new game? Just give me the DLC. Like it's a different mindset.
Yeah.
So that Disney War Dreamer books is a great one too. But the Bob Iger part, you definitely get to see him in the background in the 90s and then how he kind of came forward because he's able to mend. He said pragmatic. He's able to mend relationships and see, you know, us building our own Pixar. With Disney had that animation studio that was doing Pixar 3 or it's Toy Story 3 at the time or 2. They were doing Toy Story 2. Matter of fact, there's a documentary called Dream On Little Dreamer. So do you know about the Sweatbox?
No.
So there's a documentary. This is crazy. So you like Sting, I imagine, right? You a Sting fan?
I like the Police.
Sort of. Okay. So he signed up with Disney to do the soundtrack for a movie called Kingdom Under the Sun, which eventually became Emperor's New Groove.
Okay.
The deal for that, because I imagine because the Phil Collins signed that deal with Tarzan, the deal with that was that he agreed to do it so long as his wife could shoot the entire process as a documentary.
Okay.
To which Disney said, okay, great. She shot that. It's recorded. It's candid. It's brilliant. 1,000%. You're going to love every second of it. It's just a giant nightmare. Train crashing. And all this corporate speak about justifying their process. This is our process. This is what we do. And you're like, this is not what works.
Yeah.
Disney shelved that document. Never came out. But it leaked a few years ago on the internet. So you can find it. There was a semi-follow-up. So at the end of the documentary, it makes it seem like they had a win and they, you know, got Emperor's New Groove. It came out great. The animators are all happy. There's a follow-up documentary someone made that I have. I can send it to you. It's not that long. That shows that studio, that animation studio, shut down 3 years later. It's all gone. The studio's empty. They got in there. The animators went in with the cameras, you know, and they're just like, I was literally hired. And so these are 3D animators who were hired to come in to work on Toy Story 2. But they got there the day Iger signed the deal, right? So they get some guys, they moved their whole families from Spain, you know, from South America, from France, you know, they all flew in and then they signed that deal and shut that studio down because Pixar was like, no, we're doing Toy Story 2.
Yeah.
You know, and it just took them forever to build the Disney animation side back up to like what they produce now with the Frozen films.
Right.
It's a very depressing thing to like. Whenever I feel like I'm working on a project that's not going well, I put on the Sweatbox, you know, and the Dream a Little Dream because I'm like, man, it gets worse, you know. Or it's about this is the business. This is par for the course.
Yeah.
But watching Sting have to deal with Disney suits is the best.
Right.
You know, because he's like, I don't deal with. No one tells me what to do. Like, what is this? Like,
I'm Sting. I know I have tantric techniques.
He goes to he goes to like the Himalayas. He's like, well, I'm going to the Himalayas, so I'll see you. And then they go to the Himalayas. So his wife is up there with him and his co-composer, and they're just in like these huts, baths out in the Himalayas with goats. Like he lived the life, man. Say what you want about. I was like, look, I mean, I like the Police in that one album, Fields of Gold, because high school days, you know.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that guy lived the life. Like, say what you want about that.
Oh
dude.
no, he did. Yeah, no, Sting parties.
But to bring it back,
I didn't think it was that bad in Dune either.
No, man. That movie, you know, that movie wasn't any actor's fault. Yeah. But to bring it back to Iger, like Iger is, I'm not saying he was bad for Disney. He saved Disney pretty much, like because like the Eisner-Kastner thing was like a giant tech bubble when they came in, you know, and Katzenberg tried to repeat that same kind of bubble like enthusiast excitement with DreamWorks, and they were just at the tail end of their, you know, everyone has a run. They had a run and it just was crashing and burning. I mean, for Eisner to like talk shit about Pixar when, you know, like just didn't make any sense, man, you know? And that was when they were doing those direct-to-DVD sequels, remember? Like The Lion King 4, Why Bother? You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Mark Hamilton says, I keep forgetting about you guys. I love you guys in the chat. I'm sorry. Mark Hamilton says, Ryan Johnson made some of the last Jedi look stunning, but the CGI heavy stuff like Canto Bight, Fathier's, BB-8, ATST looked off. Wrong tone, or more like Harry Potter than Star Wars. Yeah, I kind of think that that stuff when you get into like the CGI stuff, you just open yourself up to it not resonating with someone and it could be me or it could be you. I personally thought that when I was seeing the Canto Bite stuff, that's where I felt like I was seeing the prequels. And
Yeah,
obviously
and
it's the CGI
not
stuff.
episode, like I was looking back at the CGI in episode 1 to episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
And like the lighting on Coruscant in Revenge of the Sith is better than most lighting in CGI today. Like the art direction on Coruscant on episode 3, I gotta give him props. Like it has this shift of greens and blues and maroons and yellows and golds, and there's a lighting that Ryan Church and all those guys did. I don't want to dismiss any of Eric Tiemens and all the guys that worked on it, but
Yeah.
all the artists that worked on it, compared to say like episode 1, which was just, you know, red sunset or open white sky.
Yeah.
You know, but that level of CGI art direction, even on that film or any of the sequel trilogy, doesn't really exist. It feels like more like in the episode 1 territory than
in episode 3, the big advancement was in some depth of field kind of program that they had written, and that's why Coruscant gets so much better and has like so much more layers and then with the digital camera, or the computer camera, not the real camera, but the computer camera itself, how it was viewing the rendered materials was like better. So it's a completely like different look. And yeah, I still think that a lot of the Coruscant stuff in episode 3 is worlds above stuff that we get today.
And to be fair, though, they were making those movies every 3 years.
Yeah.
And Return of the Jedi is kind of an 18-month schedule, really. You know, maybe 12 months for the visual effects, you know, and even though, you know, time has passed and we can do a lot of things on the fly, art direction is still art direction.
Yeah.
You know, and that requires artists and time and putting things together and saying, you know, like, is this the artistic way we want to go? And it has more of, like, now the Marvel films and the TV shows like Loki, very colorful. But those first, you know, few dozen Marvel films are very flat because it was based off a pipeline in the VFX that just needed to be kind of all over lighting because it was just easier to render out every 12 months amongst 6 different distributors.
Right.
So yeah, I feel like that's where, like, if those sequences in those areas had another 6 to 8 months, even, you know, 10 months of dev, I think the lighting and, you know, all the integrations, it would have felt more real than the way it came out.
And to go back to what we were talking about, like a little bit, I want to hammer one point home a little bit more, is that when you look at what Lucas was doing on the sequel trilogy, and then you look at what he was doing on Underworld, by this point, Underworld was pretty much shelved. So it's kind of clear to me that his ideas from Underworld became what he's talking about here. Underworld was going to be about a Jedi. It's going to be about the crime world and the crime families and how they all end up playing into all of these different skirmishes, which was going to be the Empire and the Rebellion at the time. So all Lucas, I think, was doing with the sequel trilogy was moving Maul into that position. It was probably Maul was probably in Underworld, and was moving it up into the sequel trilogy era. And then when you look at what we got with Maul now being the head of Crimson Dawn, they basically moved it back to the Underworld TV show. Looks great, Palpatine. They moved it back to that vibe right there, to that era and that vibe. So, and then when you look at like the Jedi, there was this amount of Jedi who lived. That's happening. We're seeing that between Rebels, Cal Kestis, all these guys. We're seeing that as being a thing. Luke getting the children. We've seen that in Mandalorian.
Literally, like a 2 to 3 year, I mean, he's a 50-year-old, but you know.
Yeah. Leia kind of being the main one who actually was going to bring that trilogy together. That happened. It happened in a more creative way because of Carrie's death, but it still did happen. And so when you're looking at all of the stuff that we're kind of talking about there, other than seeing Darth Maul and seeing Talon themselves in those roles in the sequel trilogy, most of that stuff is kind of happening. So I'm also like, to the extent to where I'm looking at the idea, I'm like, well, you know, we didn't get it, but we are getting it. at the same time. I'm not so sure it's totally assed out. And I think that and then to bring it into back to the other question with the CGI stuff and how he handled that component of it. Like when you have Ryan Johnson and like he has like the little guy who like screams, during the father air chase and all that kind of stuff. That's him going, I'm pulling a George Lucas right now. So I think I don't think that Ryan Johnson would have ever have done that on his own. I think that is entirely.
Yeah, that sort of humor isn't in Looper when there's fun scenes, and Knives Out, which is probably as fun as film he's made, doesn't have any, cheap. I don't call it cheap gags, but you know what I mean. It's a Muppet gag.
Yeah. It doesn't have like that really super kiddie stuff going on like that, and so I think that that's what Ryan was going for personally, and but Dale says, yeah, and again, Rey is the everyman everyone can relate with, discovering her powers, which is the way most new fans see her. But the way she was described as learning those powers was a bit of a fail. And then Mark is like, they have Papa Roach. Well, there you go. But
cut my apprentice into pieces.
Yeah,
flagged.
But, yeah, I personally don't have a big problem with the characters in the stories like discovering the powers at like an increased rate. I would only have a problem with it when it's like, we can't do this thing, it's impossible, and then every single time it's like, well, here's my new power I didn't tell you about, and like it happens like that. I think that stuff was okay and evenly paced out for like what it was, but me feeling okay with it's not going to make it okay for you. So I don't mean to minimize like your feelings on it, so to speak. You know what I mean? And like how it worked for you or didn't. I just feel like it's one of those things where like when you look at how it goes, you're like kind of focusing on like kind of the wrong stuff. Like I don't really give a shit how much Hermione learned over that summer because now she could stop time thanks to this amulet. I'm like, it's just the story, and everything else is hanging on. I'm like cool with that, like that, and that's how I kind of see the array side.
It's so subjective. It's so subjective because then I watched The Matrix and Keanu Reeves literally learned kung fu in 1 second. You know what I mean? Like I don't. So it's so subjective.
Yeah.
You're bringing balance to the discourse, Jason.
Brian, I shouldn't do that. Mark says lighting in the Bad Batch is stunning. It's hard to tell. It's not real at times. A couple like I talked about that last time we talked about the show. You know what's funny is every time I don't really care like about like making money off the show or whatever, but every single time I run a Bad Batch show and it's called the Bad Batch, they demonetize the video.
What?
It has the word bad, and I don't know, batch. Does batch make them think of a sperm bank? I don't know. I can't
try and just put batch in there and just then put bad and see which one or
see both which one. Yeah, this show tomorrow's episode might be called bad, just so we could try. we could do the test. My neighbor keeps telling me she forgets it's animation, a cartoon as she calls it. Yeah, no, it that's what's like on that last episode. When the Bad Batch kind of just has cameos, like that's where they made it feel like a cartoon. When she's like it's kind of corny when Omega's like, "Did you know that flying's a feeling?" or whatever, however she says it, and then they're like, "A feeling? What?" I was like, is this guy C-3PO all of a sudden? Is he not human? Like, what is this? And it was like very corny, and it felt very like a something that animators would write and do as opposed to like a Star Wars moment.
Lucas has a quote here about Django.
Oh yeah,
wanted to tie that into the Omega discussion. It's a little bit.
Yeah.
But he says, George goes. So there's a discussion about father figures is the contextual argument for this. The theme continues with Luke and even Jango Fett. The Kaminoans are making all these clones of him, yet he asked for one to be unaltered so that he can raise them. Jango was a father to thousands. This is what George says. Jango was a father to thousands, but he wanted a son that was not altered to be obedient. He wanted him to have his own personality and his ability to be self-sufficient. so like her being so different isn't much, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
isn't that far off the initial thought, right? It was
Right.
weird. Like, how self-sufficient can you be when you're just raising him to be a bounty hunter? You know, I want you to be self-sufficient, but do everything I would do. You
Right.
know, or you will die. You know, like okay, I will. You know, kill this Jedi kill the Jedi. That's what I would do. You know,
I wonder if they're gonna cash their one, oh, it's a clone moment. They haven't done it. I feel like you always had that. No, it's not really him. It's a clone. Like that moment. I wonder if they're gonna cash it on Maul. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't want to tell him this. I don't want them to know it. But you can do it one time. It's cheap, but you could cash that check one time, and they haven't done it. And I wonder if they're gonna end up doing that with Maul,
so
having
you
it
don't
where,
consider the Palpatine thing a clone? He's just like the decrepit. He's a reanimator, right? Like
yeah, and the bodies aren't holding up. There's
Palpatine,
no like,
Frankentine.
it's not like a like there was a time when some people thought the Palpatine that was killed in Return of the Jedi was a clone, and that was the real Palpatine's been on Exegol the whole time. How they went with that, I would have been like, well, there you go. But
Palpatine.
Yeah,
Palpatine.
Yeah, Palpatine. Yeah, but
that's our horror band, right? Like our Halloween themed Star Wars. Yeah.
Oh, Palpatine. But Dell says her son loves Star Wars, and his little girl is so into Rey. She finally has something to talk about with them regarding Star Wars now that I've, quote, forced her to watch TBB and the Mandalorian. So yeah, I mean, yeah, and that, you know, that stuff is it's good, but you can't be forcing people to watch it, Dell. You got to put the guns away. It's not right, Dell.
It's Clockwork Orange here all the time.
Yeah. I'm going to beat you over the head with this giant statue if you don't watch The Mandalorian. But DreamWorks, I meant, yeah. Says the ATT episodes look beautiful, best animation they've done. Yeah, I in that one, I kind of felt like story may have suffered for beauty, or it had so little going on that they decided to really make it look great. But I'm all for how it looked. But then the follow-up episode, those like when Omega's landing to meet them and to do the weapons deal with her aunt uncle, like that shot going in there might be the best looking planet painting shot exposition moment in Star Wars animated history.
Not for nothing, I do hope that the films and more of the productions of the live action end up more painterly than we've seen so far. Because again, like this skyline back here, dude, like those little blues and that like gold haze and maroonish, it's hard to see compressed through YouTube, but plop open the 4K episode 3 and just look at the lighting they did back there. Like, I would love to see more of that painterliness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the animation side's doing it because animators, concept dev, everything has to be sold through color, you know. And I just feel sometimes like on the live action side, it's more like tapestry and what's in a shot, and you know, rather than the painterly side of things. So,
oh, and thank you, Joshua. Mark Hamill is returning for the Disney Gallery, the Mandalorian Season 2 special, which I believe is August 25th, I want to say. And we meant to talk about it yesterday, but we didn't. But yeah, and we have a few minutes left in the show right now, so let's talk about it real quickly. But yeah, they're going to be doing an episode based off of the fact that they did a deep fake of Mark Hamill, and he's going to talk about the experience. And I think it's going to be cool. I think it's going to be really interesting to see. I wonder if the documentarians knew that they were hiding the things from the actors, and if we'll see them talking about we're tricking them right now and that kind of stuff, or if it's just going to simply be if it was so under wraps that everything is a retrospective in it. Because
yeah, like how will it be more like the prequel documentaries, which were pretty honest?
Yeah,
surprisingly, especially that first one. You know, the first one is chef's kiss.
The beginning. It's honest in that Lucas is just talking off the cuff, and everybody else is shutting up and letting him take the stage. Like you could tell that like everyone doesn't like is like, can I speak? Because they're filming in that one. But Lucas just gets to run his mouth for better
the only
or
one who
worse
seems
on
to
it.
have a conversation with him is Steven, right? Steven
Yeah.
Spielberg. Like when they're messing with the droid arms and he breaks it.
Yeah.
You know?
They're like butter. They're like butter.
Parquet. You know?
None of that imperial
I'm diabetic,
stuff.
I can't eat it.
we didn't use imperial butter because it's not that time yet. We're just at the Republic still.
Yeah, it's government issued butter. It's oleo. Yeah.
It's country crock.
It's country crock of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's Mark Hamilton's all? Didn't Katie Sackhoff say they told the actors crew the Jedi was going to be Plo Koon, totally trolling them? And it's like, man, I'm not a person who's like, you should know Star Wars, Katie Sackhoff, because no, she shouldn't. She doesn't need to. And even if she did, she probably wouldn't know, or she would have forgotten. But it's like that guy died in Order 66. We saw him blow up. We saw him get ploned. Plo got ploned. And it's like, what are you gonna do? Like it would have been funny if she was like, no, that didn't happen. He's dead in Order 66. What are you talking about, fool? You're messing up right now. I'm leaving the show. This, you know what I heard on YouTube was right. This show is a farce, and the Disney Civil War is on. You're going down, Kathleen Kennedy.
Disney Civil War, dude.
It's
that
on.
one still kills me. Like when you were like, guys, this is a job. People go to work here. They have HR departments. Do you really think like it's an episode of Community where they're showing up and the tables are stacked over in the trenches? You know, like everyone's hunkered down. We've taken sides. Rick McCollum's back there starting shit up, you know, like as in a separatist movement.
He's like, I'm back. I got cocaine. I'm back. We're taking the show. Back from Iger, back from Kennedy.
Story's so important. It's so important. You know?
It's like gonna be like The Empire Strikes Back good again, guys. I promise. But all right, Penny, come here, Penny. Are you here to tell us that yet the show is over, and that you want to you want to go swimming now?
Swim now.
Okay.
Now.
Our producer is in my ear, telling me that we are done. Oh, great. The Bob Iger of the Ward House is here. He's gonna undo all my ideas. Luke, let me ask you a question, son. I'm gonna be honest with you. If you get it wrong, well, might not be my son anymore. How did Plo Koon die?
Who is that guy?
Get out of here. You're done. I'm kidding. So if anybody thinks he knows I'm joking, he knows that his dad messes around. But
he's that stack of figures in the bargain bin.
Yeah. But thanks to everybody for showing up today. Don't touch the camera, baby girl. That's the one thing you can't do. Thanks to everyone for showing up. Thanks number one. Actually, I should have thanked you up at the top of the show, Rob, for the excellent overhaul of the show. You made this a more painterly show, I will say.
Oh, hey.
Yeah. No, and it's and I appreciate all of the help. And if you saw the very end of the beginning of the show, I was able to make the beginning of the show better thanks to his help as well. We have a little star filled here in the intro now. So it's and the ending, so that's better. And if you want to support the show, you can become a YouTube channel member, or you could support on Patreon, and there you can get audio only versions. And the audio only versions will get better, I promise. I am still kind of flying by the seat of my pants and figuring this all out. But think of your guys' questions, and tomorrow, I think if there's no huge news that breaks, we'll try and have more of a back and forth based off of what we talked about today, where you guys could share your ideas more, and we could have a bigger discussion and play a bigger game of ping pong, if you will. And so you can write in your questions. If you can't make the show too, you can write in your questions too. Hey, you mocking me? That's not Plo cool. Okay.
Plo cool.
Okay, guys. Yeah, his stupid stamps.
It's Mando lame, not Plo cool, you know.
Mando lame. Man, or if they make a mistake, it's Mando with the H at the end. Okay.
No.
It was bad.
Why
Man,
doesn't
don't.
that shirt exist?
Man,
like a
don't.
Mandos Homer. Mando!
But anyways, thanks, Rob. And I'll see you tomorrow.
Mando.
And come on Saturday for the UFO episode. If you're up for it, you're always invited, by the way. And and everyone else in the chat, if you guys want to talk about UFOs on Saturday, we will do UFO show Saturday 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And until then, I will see you guys tomorrow. And here is the ending of the show, because that's how we do it. Maybe.
It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships. It's not about spaceships.